All right, hello. We are ready to get started. My name is Sharon Duffy. I am the Research Services Librarian. And as part of the library's focus on open access activities this month, the title of my presentation is Gold, Green, and Everything in Between, Your Scholarly Publishing Roadmap. All right, so here's an outline of what I'm going to cover today. So first, I'm going to give an overview of different scholarly publishing models. And then I'm going to go through some definitions that will hopefully help clarify some of the open access routes. I'm going to describe the gold route, the green route, what a hybrid journal is, and also diamond journals. Then I'm going to look at ways that the LSU Libraries is working to help our authors avoid some of these publishing costs. I'm going to give a recap of the 2024 NIH public access policy changes and how publishers are responding to that change. And then I'll go over some library resources that are available to our authors. All right, so first to discuss what scholarly publishing is. These are articles that are written by experts and research in the field, and the content has been peer reviewed. So this is the type of literature that I'm going to be talking about today. This is considered the highest standard for research dissemination, and it is required for academic researchers in order to gain promotion and tenure. They need to publish their results. And journals are also have some ratings. They are measured for their level of impact and prestige within their fields. So this just sort of sets the stage of the arena that open access publishing operates in. All right, so there are three primary scholarly journal distribution models. So the first one is the traditional or the closed model. I consider this kind of like the old-fashioned model, where journals use a subscription model. An institution or an individual can subscribe to a journal to read the content. The way it's kind of marketed and packaged, publishers will typically bundle many of their journals together. So when a library purchases from a journal or from a publisher, they're getting a bundle of journals oftentimes. But this is a huge expense for libraries and institutions. It's a large part of the library's budget. Then there are open access journals. So these are free for readers to access the contents. So opposite of a closed model. There are costs involved. In this case, the authors pay what is called an article processing charge or an APC to get their articles into the journals. Sometimes libraries may have an agreement with publishers to waive these APCs for their journals. I'm going to talk more about that later. But again, these are very expensive for libraries and institutions. So even if it's an open access journal, a lot of times libraries and institutions are still shouldering some costs, especially related to the APC costs. And then there are hybrid journals out there, which are kind of like they sound like. The same journal will have a mix of traditional closed articles along with open access articles. So in these, if an author decides to pay the APC, their article would be listed as open access. And if they don't, then it would be behind the paywall. So in these, obviously, libraries need to subscribe to those journals to access those non-OA articles and may also have some fee waivers for the APCs. So no matter which model we're using, libraries and institutions are paying for access and publishers are charging both authors and subscribers. All right, one other kind of definitions I want to go through to kind of set the stage is the publication workflow. So when an author creates a manuscript, they'll do some internal editing and get everybody's input before they submit it. Then the version that gets submitted for publication to the journal is called the preprint. And that word is sometimes used different ways, but the way that it's most should be used is it refers to the version that gets submitted prior to peer review. The peer review will come later. So this is that unreviewed version that the author originally submits to a journal for review. Then after it goes through the peer review process and the author makes corrections, and then it gets accepted for publication, then it is called a postprint. This is also known as an author accepted manuscript. This is a very important term to know because it comes into play related to the NIH requirements and what authors are allowed to share publicly. So after it goes through the peer review, it's called a postprint. And then after that, then it goes into another round through the publisher for their copy editing, their typesetting, their formatting, and then what it becomes known as the published version. So this is the version that you would see online on a publisher's website. It's the PDF, it's the pretty version with all the formatting and all the graphs and attachments. So this is an important workflow to understand because I'm going to refer to it later. Okay, so now here we have an author who's kind of confused. How should I publish my manuscript? And he doesn't know where to go. So he thinks, I think I need help from my librarian. And he is correct. So let me help you. All right, so here's a chart that kind of walks through some of the open access publishing routes. I'm going to go into more detail about the gold and the green, but this might be helpful to refer to. I don't know if Chandler has shared the slides in the presentation or in the Zoom, so you'll have these slides. I think this is a helpful one because it kind of walks through every step of the way and kind of delineates the different models. So gold and the green, I'm going to go into more details. I've talked about the hybrid journal. It's a mix. I'm going to talk about diamond, and then we discuss the closed version. So let me dive into the gold and the green a little bit in more detail, but this might be something helpful for you to review later. All right, so in a gold open access. In this version of publishing, all the content is available to all readers for free without any subscription fees. So there are some obvious advantages to this route. Anybody can read it. It's very useful for people in less resource-rich environments who don't have a lot of institutional subscriptions. The works can be read online. It's advantageous for authors because they are going to have a higher readership because everybody can read it. One of the negatives then is the article, the APC charge that the author must pay to the publisher. It should be noted that these APCs are paid after the article has been accepted. So it's free to submit your article. You're not going to be charged just for submitting to a gold OA journal. You will not be invoiced until after your article has been accepted and all the revisions are complete. But just be aware of when that timing is. And then when it's published by the journal, then it is fully available with all the publisher formatting, typically as the PDF. Also in this version in Gold OA, the author typically will retain the copyright and can usually choose a Creative Commons license to determine how freely the content can be reused. This can be very widely shared where you just say, just make sure I'm attributed in there somewhere, or it can be, you can lock it down a little bit more with no commercial or less distribution allowed. That's a whole other discussion of Creative Commons licenses, but the main thing in Gold OA is that the author does retain their copyright to their work. In green open access, this is also known as self-archiving. In this case, the manuscripts can be made available in open repositories. So thinking back to that publication workflow, I'm talking about the postprint. It is the version in between the preprint, so it's undergone peer review, but it's not the publisher's final version. It's that middle one. This one, in a green open access model, that version can be shared on an institutional repository or maybe an author's personal website. In the biomedical research, PubMed Central is the official repository for our type of work. These are not PDFs. Typically, they'll usually be a document format. There's less formatting. It looks like a typed document. But all the content is there. The figures and appendices are included. Maybe they're all at the end of the article. It's all the exact same content. It just isn't in the final formatting. In this version, there is no APC paid by the author. But then you typically will have an embargo period. And what this means is that the publisher can withhold their version, the PDF version, or any version for maybe up to 12 months before making it freely available to all. So this is where it's important to read a journal's author guidelines to know exactly what embargo period they are enforcing, if any, for the green open access route. So that's sort of the the trade-off there. You're not paying an APC, but it may take a while for that content to be allowed to be released. Also in this version, the author will typically transfer the copyright to the journal, so then they become the owners of the copyright. And typically this can meet funder requirements for access, depending on the embargo period length required by your funder. I'll discuss more about that when I get into the NIH public access policy. But typically green is free and should allow an author to meet their funder guidelines. All right, so in a hybrid journal, again, this is where it's a subscription-based journal, but some of the articles will be open access. The authors will have to pay an APC if they want to go that open access route. The readers would have to subscribe to the journal to get to the non-OA articles. And it should be noted that the APCs in a hybrid journal are typically higher than in a fully open access journal. That is just the way the publishers have established this model. And APCs are typically in the thousands of dollars of range. There might be some in the hundreds, usually around $1,500, $2,000, but they certainly go much higher, $20,000, $30,000 for some of the most prestigious journals. Fee waivers can often be negotiated by libraries and institutions for a hybrid journal so that their authors can publish the gold open access without the fees. And once again, the libraries still have to pay to subscribe to this journal. So just more cost. You're paying both to subscribe to it, and you're paying for your authors to avoid the fees. Then there's something called Diamond Open Access. And this is worth noting because you might hear about it. It is journals that are funded by typically the nonprofit organizations or the academic communities. There is no APC for authors, and there's no cost for readers. So this sounds like the best of all worlds. There are some issues with it. I have one example here of one called Pediatric Investigation. It's published by Wiley, but it is supported by the Chinese Medical Association. So usually these will be from societies or nonprofits will publish these journals. It's considered the most equitable model of OA. It's hopefully more sustainable, but there are obviously some costs that need to be shouldered by somebody. The LSU Health Digital Scholar Institutional Repository actually can host some Diamond Access journals. I'll click on this link. You can see we do have a couple. We have the Louisiana Journal of Counseling and the Journal of the Louisiana Public Health Association. So these are journals that are sponsored by our academic community, hosted on our repository, and available freely for all, and there's no charge to publish in them. Let's get back to my slides. Hold on. So the only kind of big trade-off with this is that a lot of times these journals will have lower impact factors and visibility compared to the commercially published journals. They maybe aren't indexed as much in the databases, so they don't have as high of an impact factor. But it is an open access route that I wanted to make sure you heard about today. All right, so here's just a recap of a roadmap. So gold route being kind of the most well-known. This is where the authors pay to publish. The green route is also known as self-archiving. It would be the manuscript version, not the published, the final publisher version. And then there's, APCs along the way. So again, these roadmaps and charts can be helpful. If you come across these terms and you don't remember all the details, you can come back and refer to these slides to refresh your memory. All right, so now that we've covered all of that basic information, do we have any questions in the chat or in the room? Oh, we have a question. For the APC? Okay, so the question is, what is the cost of an APC? And it does totally depend on the journal. Our scholarly communication librarian is on the Zoom if he has an answer for what he knows to be the average. It's probably like a couple $1,000 is typically what we see for most mainstream middle of the road journals, a couple $1,000 per article, but it varies. All right. So now I'm going to talk about how the LSU Health Libraries can help with some of these APCs. So we do have a few publisher agreements in place that will waive these APCs for our authors. We have a link on our website to the full list. And I'm going to keep this small so I can adjust that. This is a page on our website, and it is updated whenever we have a new agreement. They're probably going to change a little bit for 2026, but we do have some with different societies. Microbiology, American Chemical Society. I want to spend a little time talking about the Science Direct one. This is a collection of journals from Elsevier, and it is some of their hybrid journals. And we do have a note here that some are changing. It's a little, it's the titles in the collection will be changing when we get to 2026. Let me jump back to my slide because I do have the information on here. So we are limited to 29 articles per year in the Science Direct deal. I checked with our scholarly communication librarian, and he said we have used up 19 of them so far. So we're within less than 10 or so to go for the year. This is going to be only their hybrid journals. It is not their fully open access journals. There is a list where you can confirm the eligibility. So this link will take you to a page with Elsevier where it gives details about our agreements. You can type in a journal name, or you can just go by the subject and you can see the titles that are included. You'll see it's their hybrid journals. So there's a lot, but it's certainly not all of the Elsevier journals. So we do recommend you check before you submit. To follow this process, and usually for many of our processes with these, the LSU Health author must be the corresponding author and use their LSUHSC.edu email address. You don't have to be the first author, you don't have to be the last author, but you have to be the corresponding author. And with, at least with the Science Direct deal, we are automatically notified when an article meets these requirements. So we'll get notified. So then the author should not receive an invoice. We would allow it to pass through with one of our articles. And it should be noted, this is not a cost neutral deal for the libraries. We pay extra for this package with Elsevier. So this is our first year with it. We have at least 2 more years at this level, and we're hoping that we can use up all of our articles in the next 2 or 3 months of the year to maximize our value. All right, so now I'm going to talk about some changes in that the NIH made this year to their 2024 NIH public access policy. So they made a change in July that now requires all NIH-funded research to be immediately and freely shared with the public as soon as the publisher posts the article online. So the change was they used to allow a 12-month embargo, meaning previously that green route that I talked about, even with the embargo, was fully compliant with NIH funding. So authors didn't really have to worry too much about publisher policies because green routes would be NIH compliant. Now they've changed that. They now want those articles to be immediately and freely available. A side note, the NIH is considering getting involved in putting a cap on these APCs because they want to limit the amount of their funding that goes to publishers rather than to actual research, because you are allowed to budget for these APC costs in your NIH grant. Where the process is, they had an RFI period. They received a lot of input from publishers and medical librarians and researchers in this space. And we're hoping to hear by the end of the year if they're going to put a cap on APCs or how they're going to step into this arena. So stay tuned because there could be more changes. But either way, this new policy has created a lot of uncertainty and confusion among authors because now they do have to pay attention to whether they're allowed to share their results to meet the NIH requirement. If you want more information about this, Matthew Folse and I did a presentation on it on July 2nd, and there's a link to our presentation and the slides. So if you want to take a deeper dive into the new policy, you can. All right, so now that we've had a few months and publishers are responding to this new policy, I can share some publishers that are being helpful and some that are not being helpful. So generally, with the removal of the embargo period, authors just need to be more aware. So I'm going to help you figure out what you should look for, which publishers at this point are more accommodating to the policy and which ones are not, and then where the library can help you. All right, so when you are submitting an article, prior to submission, we encourage you to read the author guidelines. This is where they will spell out very clearly what you are allowed to do and what you are not. So some terms to look for in those author guidelines are words like open access, how long they have an embargo. You can look for if they refer to gold or green, now you have a little more knowledge of what those might mean for you. And then words like archiving or sharing, what you're allowed to do. So even in those author guidelines, some even specifically mention NIH policies or specific funders. So some publishers are more helpful with their guidance than others, but those are kind of some of the words you're looking for. So first I'm going to talk about the publishers that are still allowing NIH compliance via the green route, even with the new zero embargo policy. There might be some additional work for the authors, some additional steps they need to take, but essentially they can still go that green route, don't pay an APC, and immediately release their author accepted manuscript to meet the requirements. So here's the list of publishers. There is a list that we keep on one of our resource guides about the policy. Matthew and I stay up to date on this, and we will update as needed. But some of the names on here you might recognize: the American Medical Association, Sage, Wolters Kluwer. They are all publishers that are allowing compliance. And I took a couple screenshots from some of their policies just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking for. So for Sage, in their policy, in their guidelines, they have something called green open access. And it says you may share the original submission or accepted manuscript. So original submission refers to like that preprint, again, prior to peer review, not the best one to share, but you can also share that postprint or the accepted manuscript at any time after your paper is accepted and in any format. So you can share it on a website, in a repository, on your social media channels, whatever it might be. So they are allowing you to share that postprint immediately, no problem. Here's one from Wolters Kluwer. They specifically refer to the NIH public policy. They are aware of what authors are required to do. And they give you two options. They can comply. If you choose their open access route, then they will put the article on PubMed Central for you, as typically has been done. But if you can still go the green route, it says if you choose not to go open access, you can still comply, but you have to deposit the accepted manuscript to PubMed Central. So again, but it's free. There's no APC. You just have to take that step of submitting to PubMed Central. The libraries can help you with that step if you need some help with that. So, but those are kind of some good examples of publishers that are working with authors to meet that new NIH requirement. Now we have the list of publishers that are not allowing compliance via the green route. So you'll see Elsevier on here. You'll also see Springer Nature, Taylor and Francis, Wiley. Again, our resource guide also keeps this list up to date. So what do their policies say? Let's take a look. So here's one from Taylor and Francis. They say their policy is gold OA. They are aware that the NIH requires either the accepted manuscript or the final version be deposited at PubMed Central, but it's not compatible with their sharing policies of most of their journals. So therefore, NIH grantees have to choose the gold OA. That's gold OA or the highway with this publisher. There's just no other option. So if you are not interested in paying the gold OA, you don't have the funding, you don't want to do it, then you are not publishing in a Taylor and Francis journal. So pick somebody else. Springer Nature is kind of the same way. They only enable compliance via the gold open access. Going the subscription route or any kind of green OA is not a viable option. So these are the kind of phrases and wording that you will see on publisher websites. So just educate yourself and read before you submit. All right, so where can you go for help? Certainly you can come to the libraries. We will help you review journal policies. If you still are concerned or confused about what you're allowed to share and what you're not allowed to share, contact us. We read these all the time and we can help you with that. We can also help you identify high impact journals in your field. So if your first choice has that APC and you don't want to do that, then contact us and we can help you find some good alternatives with different publishers. We can verify if an APC waiver is available for your selected journal. So if you want to use our Science Direct deal, but you just want to make sure before you submit that you qualify, contact us and we can double check it for you. And again, we are keeping abreast. We do have a link here to our resource guide, any changes that the NIH is making and publisher responses. You can certainly read about it there. And Matthew Folse and I are the primary contact people. You can email us at the reference email through the libraries or directly, and our emails are here. All right, so that ends my presentation today. I do have a few QR codes, a short survey to collect metrics about today's presentation, and also some ways to keep in touch with the library. You can follow us on Instagram, sign up for our emails to learn more about some of the other Open Access Month activities we have planned this month, as well as future information sessions. And we have time for any more questions if we have any. Yes.
I had some extra commentary about in chat.
Okay, let me pull up the chat. Matt had some other comments. All right, so Matt, our scholarly communication librarian, also said some journals can be a few $100s and some can be thousands, upwards of 10,000 for some of the premier journals. And that's really one of the reasons the NIH is getting involved, because they started to look at this and saw how much publishers were charging. So we'll see what they do. The average is about 2,000 based on where we're at right now. He says 1,200. The median was 950 based on some NIH calculations. Yeah, but I don't know if those NIH calculations were done correctly. I think they did some different they used some different journals. But either way, stay tuned, because the NIH is definitely going to say something about these APC costs and how much they're going to allow of their money to be spent on them. All right, any other comments, questions? Very good.